Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Digital Portfolio series, where we are exploring about digital portfolios and how to go about prepping for them, either in your classroom or school wide, and then also some best practices for trying to implement them into your classroom routine. My name is Rob Dominic. I'm an MLTI ambassador. Again, any questions, feedback, please feel free to um, email me here at this address. All right, so this week is the last topic for this section, this PD series, where we're just going to talk about some ideas about getting the most out of the digital portfolios in the classroom. If you spent the time prepping them and doing all the groundwork for them, we want to make sure that here we give you some suggestions about how to use them effectively, some things to consider when using them in the classroom. How is it really going to go for you? And, what are some ideas we can give you for that? So I would say that probably one of the first things that come to mind with dealing with portfolios is that you make some dedicated scheduled time for the students to work on them in class. If they're going to be an important artifact for you in your classroom, in your content, then giving the students some dedicated time shows them that it's worth it, that you want them to do well with it. I feel like sometimes with routines and classroom structures, we think that, hey, the students can work on their portfolios on their own. They can do that. They can just include whatever artifacts they want, whatever it may be. And in many cases, that doesn't happen on their own, and then things fall apart because students don't work on their portfolios on their own as much as you would like them to. And then if you're scheduling time with them, you can also circulate and see how they're doing, and not have to review all of them all at the end. You have a pretty good idea about how it's going along the way if you're scheduling that time regularly. There is a balance to that time. You're not going to want to do it once a semester or once a trimester, whatever the grading period is. You're also probably not going to want to do it once a week, right? That's a lot of time to give up. And then once a grading period is probably too long, because things have passed and they aren't in the moment on that topic anymore. Once a month, maybe once a unit. Those are probably more common times that you can balance to have students update their portfolios in your classroom. The next piece, reflection. Okay, we've talked about this in the past few topics with digital portfolios, but reflection is probably one of the biggest pieces that come from student portfolios. It allows students to reflect on their learning and think about it instead of just hand things in, get it back, throw it away. Instead of just kind of going through the routine and the process of school, they reflect on their learning. They think about their thinking. They get that metacognition. I think that's the best benefit of digital portfolios, is to have students have that opportunity to grow their own perceptions of themselves, of how they're learning and how it's going. So, besides providing time that we talked about, prompts and choice of mediums could also be things that you consider for that. If you want students to reflect by writing, if you want them to reflect by including a video reflection or just an audio reflection, things like that, you can have them include into their digital portfolios. If you're looking for prompts or questions, you can obviously come up with your own. I have linked on here a bunch of different types of questions that you could have them look through, or have yourself suggest to them about what you want them to use for reflection questions. And it's not necessarily content specific, which I like, so you can kind of structure it to your own content if needed. But these are some good suggestions to start with, if nothing else. The next piece, a lot of times with technology, when you use it in the classroom, it's done in isolation. Students are often isolated when they're working with technology, and they're doing their own thing on their own because they each have their own device, which is great that they have their own device. But it doesn't allow them to collaborate as much as they would if potentially it was not digital, right? Yes, it opens up the collaboration of not being in person, so they could collaborate from afar. But a lot of times in the classroom, since they're next to somebody, we kind of think, oh, they're next to somebody, they can do the work on their own. They have people nearby. But why not blend that together better? Why not have them work with somebody nearby, as well as using technology? So not like they have to make their own portfolio together, not like they have to collaborate on that together, but let them bounce ideas off. Let them have share time, um, in addition to the scheduled work time. Maybe 10 minutes at the end of their work day, whenever they update their portfolios, they get to share it with a partner, or a classmate, and then they can kind of get feedback or ideas with each other, and whatever it may be. So then that way things aren't completely in isolation when they're working on these things, and they get that sense of ownership from the very beginning. It's not just for you that they're seeing it. It's not just for the teacher. They see that others are going to see it every time, and maybe you rotate those groups so it's not the same person each week, right? You start getting that broader sense that others are going to be looking at this. So yeah, that's something to consider about, depending how your classroom is structured. All right, so these two are kind of, they're almost kind of in two different sides, pulling you in two different ways, but when we talk about it, we can get you on the right page with it, where I would suggest limiting artifacts, but also allowing student choice. Again, this one's seem like two contradicting ideas, but here's what they mean. Right? Limiting artifacts means that not everything has to go in the portfolio. Not everything the student does has to go in. Not every worksheet, not every problem, not every daily homework or assignment, whatever it is, not every piece needs to go in there, right? And this is where you planned it out at the very beginning, where we talked about it in previous sessions, where you thought about what do you want the students to display. Do they want to display standards or topics or everything for each unit, right? But again, once you have that done as well, don't let the students think that they have to include every little piece, right? A lot of it's learning. This is a process-based portfolio, right? That you want to have those moments where they show their process and they show their growth over time, and not just everything along the way. It's too much. Now, along those same lines, student choice. So yes, we're limiting things, but we also want to give them choices. That's more along the lines of, how can they show this standard that you've asked them to demonstrate, right? You could limit artifacts and say you need 3 things from this unit that really show how well you did or how you understand this topic. And then they can choose within those 3 things. Do you know how to solve equations for math? Well, all right, here's a video that you did, or here's a Desmos activity that you can link about how you did, or here's a digital breakdown of the Google Slides that you did and solving problems. They can choose within those pieces, within those limits, they can choose how they want to represent the topic or the standards that you are asking them to show on their digital portfolio. All right, and then finally, I think one of the pieces that makes digital portfolios go a long way is when you start having student-led conferences, right? So students are hopefully showing these to their classmates as they're going along, right? They're getting feedback and they're showing others. So hopefully that's promoting ownership for them. But then also, if they know, hey, you're going to be the driving force when it's conference time with your parents, and you're going to be showing off your portfolio, but what you've learned and how it's going. Again, hopefully that draws in the ownership piece of it, and they want to take more pride in it. It's just like that, early elementary, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or whatever, where they're bringing home their packets of work that they do each week or each day, and they're bringing it home, and you can see the work that they've done, right, and follow up with it if you want to as a parent. That doesn't happen as much the older you get. They don't bring home things as much. But if you could have those important pieces, which is why we limited artifacts, right? If you have those important pieces ready to go, then the students can talk that same way about what they've been doing and how things have been going during that grading period or that time period, whatever that may be. So I think student-led conferences is a great way for that to happen, and the digital portfolios support that immensely as well. They can go a long way when used together. All right, so this was a quick hitter here, pretty simple. Kind of wraps up our series here. Hopefully you got some ideas about this digital portfolio pieces and maybe incite some interest or ideas for you for next year to try to implement them or start planning for them. As always, if you need to find the rest of our YouTube playlist, you can click this link. If you need to submit this form for contact hours, that's on here, and the PDF slides in the comments or in the description of this video. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you very much.